Hey guys, it's Josh with Cardinal Off-Road, and today I'm going to show you how to use a plumb bob. Before I do, make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel, check out Cardinal Off-Road for all your parts and accessories, and follow my Jeep TJ build. Alright, so what is a plumb bob? So a plumb bob is nothing more than a weight. It comes to a point and then it's on a string that is directly in the center of the weight. So this is actually balanced perfectly, so when it hangs down off something, it is completely straight. So these have been around for many years and are used for various things. But today I'm going to show you how to use it to put your axles underneath your Jeep. So the reason these are very important when doing your axles is these are made to where you can set it up to make sure the axle is centered with the Jeep itself, but also as far as side to side, but also front to back. I'm going to show you how I set it up to do my 1-tons underneath my Jeep, and that way if you're doing any kind of axle swaps on yours, you can use these as well. These are also nice if you're not doing 1-ton swaps, if you're just changing your suspension up, or you're cutting all the brackets off, or you're doing a front and rear stretch where you're going to have to move those axles around. This is going to come in handy and save you a lot of headaches. So let's go ahead and set it up on the Jeep and I'll go over it. Okay, so I went ahead and set my plumb bob up, just to give you guys an idea of how I set mine up when I did my axles. So in the rear, rolled my rear axle underneath the Jeep, close to where I want it to be when it was fully done. Just kind of went up here, drew a line straight up on the body, measured from that line to the back of the tub. Went on the driver's side, did the same exact thing. I didn't go off the axle, I just went off this measurement here. That way the measurements are the same on both sides. Once you get that, I measured in off the outside of the tub inwards. I want to say maybe 4 or 5 inches, and that's just to get it up away from the tire. And then I drilled a hole, put a screw up in there, or a bolt inside the tub, and then that is what I hung my plumb bob off of. Now on the axle, you can see right there, I put a piece of tape on there, measured off the hub to where the plumb bob was. I made sure that the axle was centered and then drew a mark. Then I also measured the axle tube itself, drew a center line which came to an X, and then I know that the plumb bob and the axle are in the right spots, or the axle is in the right spot. So, and then them lines, the measurements on the tape should be the same on the driver's side. So as long as the plumb bobs are in the same spot on both sides, you measure off your axle tube, like I said, I measured off the hub inwards. You want to make sure those measurements are the same, and it might take you a little bit to figure that out. But once that's set and you got the marks right, then your axle's good to go. And if you want a second, kind of do some second measurements, you can do some quick measurements off the body and stuff like that, just to make sure everything's right. But once it's set, then you don't have to mess with it. And the nice thing is, once the plumb bob is set up, you can roll this axle in and out multiple times and you don't have to worry about it. So when you set that plumb bob up, as far as the height, you want it pretty close to the axle tube. What you don't want is real far away. It's going to be hard to read, but you also don't want that plumb bob touching the axle tube, because then it's not going to read correctly. You want that plumb bob free of anything. That way it's centered correctly and it's just hanging there. And if you have to get the plumb bob out of the way, just pick it up, set it off to the side, then you can get in there and do your work. So what I did is I did the rear axle first. So you'll need 2 plumb bobs, is what I got. And then once you're done with the rear, you get your links set up, got all your brackets welded up, transfer those plumb bobs to the front. And I just did the rear axle first just because it was a little bit easier. You don't have all the steering components and stuff like that. Just a little easier to start with that one, then work your way up to the front. So on the front, what I did is I went off my fenders. So same thing, whoops, rolled the front axle in where I wanted it, came straight up. I put some paper tape on the fender, and then I measured from the front of the fender to where the center line of the axle was. And then I took my plumb bob and just let it hang off there. I taped it down, and I ended up using, I didn't put any tape on the front axle. I just used the ball joint bolt, and it worked out pretty much perfectly. I think the plumb bob came to the inside of the ball joint bolt, if I can remember correctly. And then obviously I just centered it with that bolt. So that one was pretty simple, wasn't too difficult. So this is very easy to do. Like I said, the biggest thing is make sure you take your time and get the plumb bobs in the same spots on both sides. If you got any questions or comments, let me know. Don't forget to check out Cardinal Off-Road and make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thanks for watching.